Okay.
All right, so we are joined by Jackson, Mississippi attorney and 2022 Young Lawyer of the Year, Tamarra Bowie, right here in the Jackson area. Graduate of Pisgah High School, University of Southern Mississippi, and Mississippi College School of Law. This is our business law class. We've got a room full here with us at Velma Jackson, and we're recording this for our friends at Germantown High School, Ridgeland High School, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Now, one thing that we've talked about in class is the difference between civil and criminal law, because obviously people don't really know the difference. And I know you do a little bit of both, and I will really get into your PCR, which I know you're very passionate about. But start us back in high school. You know, you are from Sand Hill, went to Pisgah High School, athlete in high school, and then an athlete in college as well at Southern Miss. So talk a little bit about, your high school experience and your college academic and athletic experience.
Well, growing up, I was always curious and like to investigate everything. So even finding rocks that look like animals or something on the ground. So I always want to be an FBI agent. So what I decided to do was go to the University of Southern Miss because they had a forensics program there. And also my sister was there already, so that was a win-win.
Yeah,
So
and we'd be remiss. We have to, your sister is Tori Bowie, Olympic gold medalist, but you're making a great name for yourself in your own right.
yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying to follow steps, or create my own lane. But so I went there, Southern Miss, fell in love with the forensic science program. We did like mock crime scenes, like the sand shooting, everything. But somehow I ended up in court. Not me, but I was there watching. So I did an internship at the Hattiesburg Police Department, and the crime scene investigators, they had to go testify about the shooting of that football player that happened at the Hunt.
At the Hunt Club, yep.
So I was there watching it. My first time in court, praise the Lord. I had to go for nothing else prior to that. And I saw this district attorney there, and I saw this another attorney there representing the defendant, and I'm not gonna say he was horrible, but I'm just saying I think I could have did a better job.
Yeah.
And the district attorney, I mean, he was just so great. I mean, I hadn't seen nobody argue or stand in front of a court like that other than my boss, Rocky Wilkins. But he was amazing. And I was like, I have to be here. I had to be in the courtroom ever since then.
Yeah.
That's the back.
Yeah. And then while you were at Southern Miss, you ran track. So obviously, because we have some athletes in here and we'll have some athletes that'll see this, talk a little bit about the demands of a collegiate athlete, especially on Division I level, because it's not just show up when you want to, skip practice and you're still playing. Not only do you have academic standards that have to be met, you have practice, and then you are on the road constantly because you guys are in Conference USA going all over the country for meets.
Well, being an athlete in college, yes, is very demanding, to say the least. Have 2-a-day workouts sometimes where you have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, go to workout. Then you have weights in the afternoon. You have lunch. It's good. You can't eat what you want to eat because you're an athlete, right? And you have to keep your weight down. So you can't get fat, especially when you're a triple jumper or a long jumper or you're doing sprints. You can't eat like you want to eat. School wise, they try to schedule around as it relates to athletes. They try to schedule around or make exceptions for us a little bit. We have at Southern Miss, they have a place called Study Hall where we have free tutoring. Athletes. We can exchange notes with other, students and, get to know about how this class is when you talk to the people in study hall. And then just knowing how demanding, like other sports schedule is, it makes you want to stay on track. It's like, oh, what we complaining about? They have it way worse, So especially football.
That's a great point. Even though track is on the road a lot, I'll never forget. And then we'll get into your law. But when I was at Southern Miss football played on Thursday night, ESPN the night before in Birmingham. And I was it was 9 o'clock in the morning the next day, and I'm walking through campus and I run into Marvin Young, who was a starting receiver. And I was like, dude, you already back? And he's like, yeah, man, we got back at 2 in the morning. Coach Bauer said we had to go to class. And this was the starting receiver who had just played a game on ESPN the night before, and he was still having to go to class the next day. So a lot of this high school mindset a lot of kids have, man, I'm tired, I'm not going to school tomorrow. At the end of the day, that academic standard has to be met in order not only to stay eligible, but in order to stay within team rules in the NCAA.
Yes, and then like my first year, I kind of slacked off in school. I wasn't big on boys in high school, so when I got there, I was fascinated by boys. So I did horrible.
Yeah.
But it's something about getting that academic or getting on the president's list
Yes.
makes you motivated. And then with sports as well, the coach will honor the people who got on academic the president's list. So you wanted that, so you wanted to do good on and off the field. I mean, you wanted that recognition. You didn't want to be the only one sitting down when everybody was getting awards.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about Bowie Law Firm, because I know it's really cool because most attorneys just focus on one area, but you do the criminal law with your post conviction reprieves, and you do a lot with the sentences and convicted of underserved clients, but you also deal on the civil side as well. They'll start on the civil side because obviously they're two completely different monsters. But I think a lot of times civil attorneys, especially doing what you do, there's a negative stereotype. But that's not, and unfortunately, there are some negative stereotype attorneys that fit into that mold. But it's important for people to understand that there are people that will advocate for you. There are people that will, because unfortunately in our country, people will take advantage of people not knowing what rights they have. They will take advantage of you not knowing that you're entitled to a certain amount of money, a certain amount of time off, a certain amount of care that you are legally entitled to as a citizen of the state of Mississippi. So talk a little bit about what you do as far as the personal injury and the civil side.
Okay, as far as personal injury, I started out as a secretary, actually, with Rocky Wilkins Law Firm here in Jackson. And I was doing the work, and I'm like, and basically they sign off on it, right? The attorneys do. So I was like, I can do this myself. So what I did was I learned everything from drafting the complaints to drafting summonses for that, because statutorily you have to serve people that you file a complaint. They have to have notice, right? So I had to learn how to do that. You gotta learn the rules to that procedurally. You gotta everything has like a deadline. How much time the respondent has to respond, and you have to respond, or the case can be dismissed based on it, not on those rules. Judgment. Basically, the other side is saying that you have not stated the claim that's disputable. Like there's no issue here. But you're thinking that there is, and your client is complaining and saying, hey, there should be something here, but maybe the law doesn't allow for it. There's maybe hadn't been a law created for it. I know recently I had a dog bite case, and it was a family member of mine. But in Mississippi, they have a one bite rule, meaning the dog has to been bit someone before and put on notice that the dog is vicious, right?
Wow.
Who is going to admit that their dog has bitten somebody before, right?
Yeah.
So you got to file a suit, do some discovery, and discovery is basically asking questions in interrogatories, asking questions. Has this dog ever bitten anyone? Blah blah blah. And I mean, if there's a no, then the case is dismissed because the law doesn't allow suit to be brought. Other than, well, it allows for suit to be brought, but what it doesn't allow for is for recovery on the claim, basically.
Yeah, and again, it's like I said so many times, you can split hairs on what's right and what's wrong, but at the end of the day, it's what that law says when it comes to what settlement and decision is reached in a case.
Yes. Yep. And then with the civil, one of the most recent things, and it's pending right now, a guy, he had a illegal sentence basically, and it kind of mixed in between when it comes to this, the criminal side, the post conviction side, and the civil side, because even PCRs are, when I say PCR, post conviction release motions, they are civil in nature. Why I call it criminal appeals lawsuit, I don't know, but because they're civil in nature, civil suits, basically.
Yeah.
So and with that,
I know that. That's a good point. I did not know that.
Yes, they're civil. It's like initial filing. You have to do a civil cover sheet, everything.
Okay.
It is initial Mm-hmm. So it's not filed in the original case.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now when we talk about that PCR, because I know that that's your wheelhouse, that's what you're really passionate about, and I think something that most people can agree on because the last three presidents have said that there is a crisis in this country of overpopulation of prisons. You saw Obama, Trump, and now Biden have all really pushed federal legislation to lower the prison population.
Mm-hmm.
And it just takes the states getting on board with it, and it takes people being educated about it because and
Yeah.
that's something you really do, and something that you're one of the first people in Mississippi to really tackle. Because a lot of people, especially in rural, underserved communities, think, well, the system's just against me. I'm poor, I'm black, I'm a woman, or whatever. I don't have any chance. But that's not the case. So talk a little bit about the things you've done and things you've seen, because it really is a positive step in reducing the overpopulation of the prisons.
Okay, so and let me tell you why I got started. My whole entire practice for criminal appeals law center was based on my dad took a plea to a lengthy prison sentence. He was sentenced in Rankin County for 60 years with 10 suspended. So basically a 50-year sentence. And this was before I was an attorney. I didn't know much about the law at the time either. He told us probably a day or two prior before he went to court that he was gonna take that plea. And he was 49 years old at the time, but took a 50-year plea. So like, come on, Daddy, why would you do that? Anyways, so my goal was to attack lengthy prison sentences. And somehow it turned into murderers calling me. Or the families calling me, like, Miss Bowie, what can we do? So I had to learn the law myself. Like when they say we practice in law, we are really practicing law.
Yeah.
And most of it stemmed from my daddy having friends inside. And you know how it is, my daughter attorney. She could do this. I'm like, I never did that before. But I'm practicing, right? So one guy called me and he said he's been in there like 28 years. He's been denied parole 7 times. I'm like, what? What you want me to do? And he was like, well, they told me I need a psych eval first because at that time, you had to have a psych eval before they release you, which is understandable. Why would we release a psycho back into society, right?
Yeah.
So I figured it out, got him a psych eval, got him out. Like, okay. Then people start calling me. Now you got these family members calling me. They put two and two together, like, okay, this guy served 27 years. My family member there for 27 years. Maybe she could get him out too. Right? So that led to people in there for murder, right? Yeah. So what happened with that is I had to learn the statute as it relates to parole eligibility and murder. Now here's a caveat. So and when as it relates to murder, just simple, I call it simple murder, even though it's not simple when you murder somebody, okay? So I'm distinguishing it from capital murder. Yeah. So when it comes to murder, prior to 1995, everybody sentenced to murder had to serve 10 years and then they become parole eligible.
Yep.
Right? So in 1995, the legislation changed with the parole statute. Then it made it to where it was subsection G added. It said no person who committed a crime or convicted after June 30th, 1995, or whose sentence has been revoked, suspended or revoked, shall not be parole eligible. So now anybody who was sentenced after June 3rd, 1995, they're no longer parole eligible, even if it's for murder, right? And when capital murder, it was June the 30th, 1994 for ineligibility.
My stepdad was on that very first jury in Mississippi history.
You sat on jury?
No, my stepdad did.
Oh, wow.
It was a murder that took place right down the road here at Sacred Heart Catholic Center, and that was the first non-parole life sentence in Mississippi history.
Wow. What year was that?
1994.
Wow. And that's the thing too. Most judges thought that statute abolished parole, right? For capital murder, which it does. But you still got, when it comes to murder, simple murder, that parole, that criminal statute itself is separate from parole statute. Yeah. The judges started sentencing people to life imprisonment without parole, right? Yeah. But it exceeds the statutory maximum for the actual criminal statute.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just a little caveat to know about that. Because when people contact me, the first question I ask them is, what year the crime occurred?
Yeah.
What year was he sentenced? And was it capital murder or simple murder?
Yeah, and again, and I know that may be complicated for some people to understand, but again, this is why there are people like you that exist, because we can split hairs on what excuse me, we can split hairs on what's fair, unfair, right, wrong for days, but what is said in black and white in that Mississippi statute is what you have to go by. And unfortunately, sometimes, especially for these nonviolent offenders, which has really been the plea of the federal government, that's the ones that everybody tries to get out first, because it was these lengthy sentences. And again, underserved communities, they didn't know what their rights were. And then they wound up, in some cases, taking pleas for sentences where they had, it was a nonviolent offense.
Right.
Um,
It's
no, go ahead.
crazy. No, I was just saying it's crazy. And because I thought about just recently as a guy, he's in there for capital murder. His crime occurred May the 21st of 1994. The judge sentenced him to natural life without the possibility of parole. He filed ARP, which is administrative remedy procedure in prison. You have to go through that process to get to dispute it before you can file judicial review. So he did all of that. The courts are denying that he should be parole eligible, right? So I contacted the records department. They fixed it because the law is the law, right? If he
Absolutely.
parole eligible, fix it. No matter what the courts say, because at the same time, the records department, MDOC, is the executive branch. They supposed to enforce the laws. The courts they interpret the laws, right? So enforce it. But they ended up taking his ineligibility back, his eligibility back last week, saying that the courts said that he should not be parole eligible.
Wow. Now, before I get to the students' questions, I want to ask you something. Again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I just want to, I just like to have people thinking, to see both sides of the coin. So let's say, you handle the PRC, a conviction is shortened, or even a person is released. What do you say to the family of the victim if it is a violent crime?
And this is my dilemma when it comes to that, and I have thought about that question a lot. I even thought about people might ask me, why do I represent murderers, right? And the way I look at it is, if there's a set of laws, or you say I broke a law and you convict me for breaking that law, there are also a set of laws for prosecutors, DAs, that they have to go by. You have my rights. I have the right to be sentenced within the statutory limit, So my practice focus on sentence corrections or deficiencies in sentencing. That's what it focuses on. So I can't really worry about what the victim's family is going to say, when at the same time that person was wrongfully convicted somehow.
Yeah.
Or their rights were violated when they were convicted.
Yeah, and I think that's important to know, is that you're not in the business of just getting people off. You're about every single person having the right to the same process and same fairness in a courtroom, which is
right.
What our Constitution was based on. So again, I think it's important for everybody to understand. There are people like you that are out there that will make sure your rights are upheld, and there's more and more of that, and because a lot of people in rural communities say they're scared of attorneys. They just think, I talked to an attorney, I'm going to jail. That's not always the case. There are a lot of good attorneys like yourself that are really there to help people. But I do want to get to as many of these questions as I can. This first one is Brian McMurtry. He's a senior. And he asked, have you ever discovered any legal loopholes?
Legal loopholes. Well, this is a legal loophole. Building a rapport with, the parole board, the MDOC records department. Even you always be nice to people. Like, you get more flies with honey. So I always build a rapport with everybody that's in this system, because you got to know how it works inside and outside. And I'm able to just call them up and like, hey, can we get it done? Let's get it done. instead of me having to introduce myself every time I call somebody. Or I can shoot an email because I built that rapport. But other than that, no, there's no loopholes in the system. No.
There may be a loophole in a case, but
Yes.
not necessarily in the system itself. But that was still a really good question. I like that. This is a good one. This is Keisha Daughtry. She's a sophomore. I almost got her grade mixed up. I'm sorry. She has, but throughout your journey in earning your various degrees, was it worth all of the obstacles? And what was your main determining force?
Oh, it was definitely worth all the obstacles. And my main force was me and my sister had always made a pact with each other that we were going to, what would I say, have the Bowie name all over.
Yeah.
So we made a pact with each other that that's what we was gonna do, and that's what we set out to do. And even like me, I didn't pass the LSAT the first time, make a high score.
Wow.
And she got mad at me. We supposed to be doing this together. You ain't holding up your end of the bargain. So okay, all right, I got you. I take it again. So that's been my motivation of us keeping our pact.
That's awesome. This is Rodarius Williams. He's a senior, and he asked, "What are some sacrifices you've had to make in order to get your business up and running?"
Whew. Whew. Oh, if I think about that, I'd start crying. But a lot. I mean, especially when I was working at the city of Jackson. Especially I didn't pass the bar the first time. I was pregnant.
And that's actually quite common. A lot of people don't realize a lot of attorneys don't pass the bar the first shot.
I had a 3-month-old. I'm like, how am I gonna make it? How I'm gonna study? So basically I had to let go of a lot of stuff when it came to sacrificing, even trying to pass the bar. I had to be disciplined, set a schedule, make sure my child was well taken care of. So what I did was I had to sacrifice a lot of sleep. So I get him to sleep at night. It take me like an hour nap. I wake up around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, study, go back to sleep. And then I study while I'm at work when I'm doing my downtime. So I mean, but by the grace of God, it was so crazy because during that time at work, I had just started there. And like within those 3 months me studying for the bar, I mean, work was minimum. I mean, minimum. And then after the bar, as I took it, I mean, it started flowing in. So I thank God. I thank God He gave me that downtime.
Yeah. I just got two more from the students, and this is a really good one here. This is Jeremy Clerk. He's a senior. And he asked, "Is it hard to stay impartial working with someone that you know has broken the law?"
It is. It is. That is a really good question, Jeremy. I'm gonna say this: it's some people that I don't believe. When I first started out, I had unrealistic expectations. I will say that. I was watching TV. TV is not. This is not what you see on TV.
Absolutely. Couldn't be more true.
I wanted to win everything. I wanted to win, and it's not gonna happen that way. Even if I knew that they were guilty and that they done something terribly wrong, I don't represent sex offenders or anybody who does that type, nothing like that. But yes, it's hard to stay impartial because I tell them myself, like, you did do this, right? Like, but I'm just helping you correct it. So you can, justice due process can be served.
Yeah.
Yes, it's hard to stay impartial sometimes.
Yeah, but and I agree with you on that. Once in the majority of cases, once somebody has served their sentence, they really deserve the right as an American to be able to fix their life and be able, and there's groups like MadCorps run by Bradley Lum that really trains them in prison to
Yeah.
have the trades and be able to find the job, have that career placement. So I'm with you on that. Even though people have made mistakes, there's a difference between a person that's made a mistake and somebody that's evil. And I'm sure in your field, you're able to spot the difference pretty quickly.
Yes, yes, yes. I have learned to spot the difference now. Some of them are not truthful when you first meet them. Some of them will tell the parole board something that they ain't told me yet. And I'm like, I would have never took your case if you would have told me that.
Yeah.
I mean, you get here and spill the beans and then spill them to me? So it's crazy.
Yeah, I just got one more from the students, and this is funny. This is James Jackson. He's a senior.
Okay.
And he said, now that you and your sister's track careers have ended, who would win if y'all went on the track today?
Probably me. Only because she's pregnant.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for our schedule today, out of your schedule today. But before we go, obviously with it being Black History Month, and you're a up and coming young Black attorney here in the Jackson area, but it's like I said before you came online with these kids. Even though Pisgah is more diverse racially, it's very similar demographic. It's rural, it's small, and a lot of those students can't get outside of that Pisgah High School bubble. They think their life is stuck there in rural Rankin County. I've seen the same thing here where kids think their life is stuck in rural Madison County. But you are a walking proof that no matter what your circumstance is, no matter where you come from, you can be extremely successful. So what can these young people do now that can, even if they don't want to be an attorney, because obviously everybody can't be, everybody doesn't want to be. But what can they do now as people in the same similar place in Mississippi that you were, be just as successful as people like you and your sister?
Well, what I would tell them is to, exercise their creativity. Yeah. And I say that because there's something God, when God puts something on your mind, He gonna eat at you until you get it done. So I would say follow that creativity, follow what He's telling you to do. It might be hard at first, but you will figure it out. Like you will figure it out. So He won't tell you to do something that He don't already have prepared for you, or He'll make way for you to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we go, if anybody has someone that they want to reach out to you about helping with any PCR, how do they find your law firm?
I use the same number for everything. 601-850-7624. You can check me out on my website, bowielawfirm.net, or just call me.
And it's like I tell people all the time, even if a specific attorney can't be the one to help you, they can usually point you in the right direction because you guys are the experts. And especially attorneys like you that really want to see people helped, even if you can't be the one to help, you can definitely point someone in the right direction to where they can have their due process in court.
Yes, that's true.
Well, again, thank you. Go ahead.
I'm always willing to help. You can call me. I'm going to answer. If I don't answer right then, call me again, shoot me a text, but I will.
That's awesome. Well, again, Tamarra Bowie right here in Jackson, Mississippi, Bowie Law Firm. Thank you so much for joining us. To the top.
Thank you.
See ya.